Dipti is here as well. International Papers, Dipti. You're starting with reactions to that US healthcare bill.
That's right. Two more Republican senators have voiced their opposition to the healthcare bill that essentially aims to overhaul Obamacare. Anyway, their opposition comes as a blow to the Republicans, and it's the second time that the bill has faced a hurdle, according to the New York Times. Does this mean that Trumpcare is finally dead? Well, that's a question the Washington Post is asking in this article here. The writer seems to think so, saying the vote was, quote, already at the door of death when Senator John McCain took ill and delayed the vote. Now this latest opposition from two senators has, quote, perhaps sounded the death knell. Now the Huffington Post doesn't really agree with this, though. On its website, it had a great headline, Bill Withers. We also have seen other headlines like Kill Bill or Kill the Bill as well. So clearly the paper's having a lot of fun with this news today. Anyway, the Huffington Post says that, quote, like a zombie, Trumpcare could come back in another form. This is quite probable, as Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has now announced that they'll proceed to repealing Obamacare, but not replacing it, at least not for the moment.
Another story from the US, a bizarre story, this one. An Australian woman killed by a US cop after she called 911. That's the important bit, isn't it? For help. It's making headlines inevitably down under.
That's right. This is making front page news, at least on the Daily Telegraph today, which calls it an American nightmare. Justine Damond called 911 in Minneapolis on Saturday about a possible assault occurring in a back alley outside her affluent home. The police turned up, and then Damond was inexplicably killed by a gunshot from one of the two officers who responded. The officers' body cams and dashboard cameras were not on for some reason, and it clearly didn't capture the incident, so there's no video evidence of what exactly went down. Damond's family are now demanding a federal investigation into her death because they want answers into what the Telegraph calls a senseless and tragic death, saying to most Australians, the recent surge in U.S. police shootings was concerning, but it was a remote occurrence, at least until now, because all that has changed with Justine's death.
And there's some focus in the US papers, isn't there, on the actual officer involved here?
Well, the officer whose gun fired the shot that killed Justine Damond is called Mohammed Noor, and the Minneapolis Star Tribune, a local paper there, reports that he joined the local police force in 2015. What's curious, though, Stuart, is that the paper says he already had 3 complaints filed against him. He was also sued once by a woman who accused him of assaulting her during an arrest. Anyway, Noor has extended his condolences to the family. He and his partner have been stood down for the moment.
Let's go to Venezuela now, where leader Nicolas Maduro has lashed out at the Spanish newspaper El País for its criticism of him.
He's actually lashed out at everyone who's criticized him. El País, he's lashed out at foreign leaders and European leaders as well who've criticized his handling of the country's political and economic crisis. Últimas Noticias, which is a Venezuelan daily newspaper, reports that he called on foreign countries to, quote, respect the sovereignty of Venezuela, just as Venezuela respects the sovereignty of Spain and other countries. He lashed out at Venezuela's religious leaders as well, because back in June they sent an urgent alert to the Pope warning him of Venezuela's deepening crisis. Now, El País, the Spanish daily, has been vocal in its criticism of the Venezuelan leader, and even today the paper penned an editorial in which they continue their criticism of Maduro. The editor said that he must be told that if the situation continues, his regime will suffer international sanctions. I quote the paper saying, the Venezuelan people should not be the only people who pay for broken dishes, which is an idiom essentially meaning they shouldn't be the only ones responsible for the state of the country.
Now, controversial Rn'B singer R. Kelly facing some pretty sordid accusations in a new BuzzFeed report.
Really lurid accusations, Stuart. The singer, who's best known for his hit I Believe I Can Fly, has been accused of essentially running a sex cult, and you can read all about it in this exclusive report from BuzzFeed, in which they interview 3 girls who are allegedly his victims, I guess you can say. Kelly allegedly controls the way they dress and behave. He confiscated their telephones and he forced them to live with him, sometimes becoming physically violent if they didn't comply comply with his demands. Now, parents of the girls who've been cited by BuzzFeed say their daughters insist on staying with R. Kelly because they want to, that they're doing it of their own volition. The allegations will further cloud his very murky reputation. He's been mixed up in charges of child pornography, underage sex, and illegal marriage. The singer, for his part, has vehemently denied all the allegations.
And finally from Dipti, another day, another city that is waging war against mass tourism. This time it's Milan.
That's right. In Milan, now in certain parts of the city, you can no longer swing a selfie stick around.
Oh, hurrah.
Is enough, local authorities are saying. Glass bottles, cans, food trucks, bizarrely, and selfie sticks have been banned from certain historic areas in what The Independent calls a crackdown on littering and antisocial behavior. Remember that just a few months ago, Florence vowed to hose down the steps of its historic churches in a bid to stop people squatting there. Rome has banned the sale and consumption of alcohol in public at night. So a strong message from Italian authorities: you can come, but you must behave.
Behave yourself if you're a tourist. Same here in Paris, of course. Dipti, thank you very much.